Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we'll be exploring this novel that you all shared.
Yeah.
And we're going to be focusing specifically on the character relationships and some of the major themes like overcoming pain.
Yeah, the power of friendship and family.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one of the things that really struck me about this book was just how real the relationships felt.
Oh,
you know?
Oh, absolutely.
The author doesn't shy away from the messy parts of human connection.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it so relatable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you get pulled into the lives of these characters.
Absolutely.
Especially, I think, the four main ones.
Right.
Jude, Willem, Malcolm, and JB.
Yeah, they form such a tight-knit bond early on.
Yeah, it's like they create this little family unit in the middle of this bustling city.
Yeah, a chosen family.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But then as we see them grow and evolve over the years, you know, they face challenges, they have successes, and that bond starts to...
Yeah, it definitely evolves.
Yeah.
It's not static.
Right? It's not a fairy tale friendship.
Exactly. And I think that's reflective of real life, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
Adult friendships, they're constantly shifting and changing as we navigate our own individual journeys.
Yeah, and sometimes those journeys lead to some really intense moments.
Oh, for sure.
Like that scene where JB confronts Jude about his legs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talk about tension.
Oh, my gosh. So much left unsaid in that moment.
Yeah, it just kind of highlights the walls that Jude has built up around himself and his past.
You can just feel the weight of his past in that scene.
Absolutely. It's like this unspoken barrier that prevents him from fully connecting.
Yeah, and I think that scene is so pivotal because it really sets the stage for the rest of the novel. It makes you understand why Jude struggles so much with intimacy and trust.
Right. And speaking of Jude's past, I mean, it's clearly a source of immense pain for him.
Absolutely.
Even though the novel doesn't explicitly detail the events.
Yeah, it's more like we get these glimpses.
Right, these fragments.
And that actually makes it even more impactful in a way.
Yeah, it's like we're piecing together the puzzle alongside him.
Exactly.
But it's clear that the trauma he's experienced has had a lasting impact.
Oh, without a doubt.
You see it in his aversion to physical touch, his difficulty with intimacy, even his discomfort with simple acts of affection.
Right, like when Harold tries to hug him.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to witness.
It really is.
Because you can see how much he craves connection. But that trauma just keeps him at a distance.
I think that's a really important point, you know?
Yeah.
The novel doesn't shy away from the lasting effects of trauma.
Right.
It shows us how it can shape a person's entire worldview.
Absolutely. And yet, despite all that darkness, there's this incredible light that shines through in the form of friendship. Especially Jude's relationship with Willem.
Oh, Willem, he's such a rock for Jude.
He really is. He's that constant source of support and unconditional love.
Yeah, he's always there for Jude no matter what.
Remember that scene where Willem stays with Jude after he's injured?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
That's true dedication.
Yeah, talk about going above and beyond for a friend.
Right? It just speaks volumes about the strength of their bond.
And I think it really highlights the idea of found family.
Oh, yeah.
These bonds that we choose that can be just as strong as our biological families.
Yeah, and in some cases, even stronger.
Absolutely. And you see this theme playing out throughout the novel, not just with Jude and Willem, but also with Harold and Julia.
Yeah, they become this surrogate family for Jude.
Right.
Offering him the love and acceptance he so desperately needs.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to witness.
It makes you wonder if these chosen connections can ultimately be the key to Jude's healing.
It's a question that I think the novel explores in really interesting ways.
Definitely. But before we dive too deep into that, I want to shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
And talk about the role of art in the novel.
Interesting.
Especially how it's portrayed through JB's career as an artist.
Right. He's constantly trying to capture the world around him through his art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's this really poignant moment where he talks about struggling to truly represent Jude's world on canvas.
Yeah. He wants to capture the essence of Jude.
But it's like there are certain depths that art can't quite reach.
Yeah, it's like there's a part of Jude that remains hidden.
And I think that speaks to the limitations of art as a form of communication. Sometimes words or images just aren't enough.
Right. They can only convey so much.
But on the other hand, art can also be a powerful tool for processing emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
For expressing things that are difficult to put into words.
Yeah, it's like art becomes this language in itself.
Exactly. And in this novel, it's used in such a way that it adds another layer of complexity to these already intricate relationships.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation.
Like art becomes this window into their inner worlds.
Right.
Allowing us to glimpse their unspoken thoughts and feelings.
And I think it also raises some interesting questions about the nature of perspective.
Oh, how so?
Well, JB is trying to capture his friends through his art.
Right.
But can he ever truly see them as they see themselves?
Yeah, that's a really intriguing point.
It's like there's always going to be a gap between the artist's interpretation and the subject's lived experience.
And that gap is where I think a lot of the novel's tension lies.
Absolutely.
Because it's in those spaces of misunderstanding and misinterpretation that conflict and hurt can arise.
Right. And I think that's true not just in the context of art, but in all of our relationships, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that communication is key.
Yeah.
And that even with the best of intentions, we can sometimes miss the mark.
It's a humbling thought.
It is. But it's also a powerful one.
I agree.
Because it encourages us to be more mindful in our interactions.
Yeah.
To really listen and try to understand each other's perspectives.
Absolutely.
And to recognize that even in the closest of relationships, there will always be layers that remain hidden.
That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, the mystery.
The constant unfolding.
The journey of discovery.
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes this novel so captivating.
I completely agree.
It's a reminder that human connection is complex and ever-evolving.
And that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Beautifully said. Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've explored the intricate character relationships, the impact of Jude's past, and the role of art in the novel.
All fascinating threads.
But there's still so much more to unpack.
Oh, definitely.
So be sure to join us for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper.
Can't wait. Yeah. Welcome back, everyone.
So in the last part, we talked about those close friendships and that really powerful bond between the 4 main characters.
Right. And how that bond evolves over time.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, something that I found really interesting was how the novel explores the impact of class and privilege on those relationships.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really important layer to the story.
Yeah, it's like, even though they're all friends, there's this underlying awareness of their different backgrounds.
Yeah, and those differences can sometimes create tension or misunderstanding.
Definitely. Like, for example, Malcolm. With his family connections in the architecture world.
Right.
He comes from a very privileged background.
Yeah. A world of wealth and influence.
And then you have Jude, whose past is shrouded in mystery.
Right.
But it's clear that he's come from a very different place.
A place of hardship and struggle.
Exactly. And I think that contrast really informs their interactions.
Yeah, it's like they're navigating different worlds within the same city.
Totally. And I think it's particularly evident in Jude's relationship with Harold.
Oh, absolutely. Harold, with his wealth and social standing, he represents everything that Jude has never had.
Right. And you can see how Jude struggles.
Yeah.
To accept Harold's generosity.
It's like he doesn't feel worthy of it.
Exactly. It's almost like he's afraid of being a burden.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the internalized shame that Jude carries from his past.
And that shame creates this barrier between him and Harold.
Yeah, it prevents him from fully embracing the love that Harold wants to give.
Heartbreaking to see.
It really is. Because you can tell that Harold genuinely cares for Jude.
Oh, absolutely.
But Jude just can't seem to let himself be loved.
And it makes me think about how the novel explores the idea that sometimes the people who love us the most are the ones we push away the hardest.
Because we're afraid of hurting them?
Or of being hurt ourselves.
Exactly. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, a way of protecting ourselves from further pain.
But in doing so, we often end up isolating ourselves even more.
And perpetuating those negative beliefs about ourselves.
Right. It's a vicious cycle.
It really is. And I think that's one of the most powerful messages of this novel.
That even when surrounded by love, our own internal struggles can prevent us from experiencing that love fully.
And those internal struggles can be so deeply rooted that it can feel almost impossible to overcome them.
And I think that's where the ending of the novel comes in.
Yeah. Let's talk about the ending.
But first, I think we should probably give a spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
For anyone who hasn't finished the book yet.
Right. If you haven't finished the book yet, you might want to pause here and go back later.
Because we're about to delve into some major plot points.
Okay. Spoiler alert out of the way.
Okay.
Let's talk about the ending.
So
it's not exactly a happy one, is it?
It's definitely not a fairy tale ending.
No, it's messy and complicated.
And heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, seeing Jude, despite all the love and support around him, ultimately succumbing to the weight of his past.
Yeah. It's a really tough moment.
It really is. And it raises so many questions.
What about the nature of resilience?
Yeah. Can love truly conquer all?
Or are some wounds simply too deep to heal?
It's a question that I think the novel grapples with, without offering any easy answers.
And I think that's part of what makes the ending so powerful.
Yeah, it stays with you long after you finish the book.
Absolutely. It forces you to confront those big questions about life and death.
And about the enduring impact of the past.
Right, and the way the author uses imagery in those final scenes.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so haunting and poetic.
It's like she's painting a picture with words.
Yeah, and it leaves you with this overwhelming sense of melancholy.
It's a reminder that even the most beautiful relationships are ultimately subject to the passage of time.
And to the inevitability of loss.
It's a powerful message.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the author's skill
Yeah.
in crafting an emotionally resonant ending.
An ending that leaves a lasting impact.
Exactly. It's not an ending that you easily forget.
And it's an ending that invites multiple interpretations.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's one of the things I love most about this novel.
Yeah.
It sparks so many conversations.
Yeah, it's a book that you want to talk about with other people.
Absolutely. To share your thoughts and feelings and hear their perspectives.
And I think that's a testament to the novel's power.
Yeah, it's a book that stays with you.
Long after you've turned the final page.
And it's a book that I think we'll continue to discuss.
For years to come. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. Now, as we wrap up, I can't help but think about how this novel really pushes us to think about the bigger picture. You know, those larger societal issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely sparks a conversation that goes beyond the immediate story.
Right. It's not just about these individual characters and their struggles.
Yeah, it's about the systems and structures that shape their lives.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like we talked about before, the novel touches on those really tough topics.
Right, like the cyclical nature of abuse.
Yeah, and the way that trauma can ripple outward.
Affecting not just the victim, but also those around them.
It's a sobering reminder that these issues are deeply ingrained in our society.
Yeah, it's not something we can just ignore or brush aside.
And it makes you question those systems that are supposed to protect the vulnerable.
Right, like the foster care system.
Yeah. Or even the legal system.
And the novel kind of exposes the cracks in those systems.
And how they can sometimes fail to provide adequate support.
It's a really important critique.
It is. And it's something that I think we as a society need to grapple with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't just pretend these problems don't exist.
And on a similar note, the novel also sheds light on the stigma surrounding mental health.
Oh, yeah, especially for men.
Jude's internal struggles is self-harm.
It's heartbreaking to witness.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to a larger cultural issue.
Right. The pressure on men to suppress their emotions.
And to project this image of strength and stoicism.
It's like they're not allowed to be vulnerable.
And that can have such devastating consequences.
Absolutely. It prevents them from seeking help.
And from forming those deep, meaningful connections.
It's a vicious cycle.
It really is. But, you know, amidst all of that darkness, I think the novel also offers a glimmer of hope.
How so?
In the friendships between the male characters.
Oh, yeah.
We see moments of genuine connection and vulnerability.
Right. Those rare moments where they let their guard down.
Exactly. And those moments are so powerful.
They are.
Because they show us that it is possible for men to break free from those toxic norms.
To support each other.
And to form deep and meaningful bonds.
It's a reminder that true strength lies in vulnerability.
I love that. And, you know, speaking of vulnerability, the novel's portrayal of intimacy is so complex and nuanced.
It really is. It challenges our preconceived notions of what intimacy looks like.
Especially in the relationship between Jude and Willem.
Right. Their love is so deep and abiding.
But it's also deeply affected by Jude's trauma.
Yeah, his aversion to physical touch adds another layer of complexity.
It does. And it forces us to confront the idea that healing is not always linear.
That there will be setbacks and challenges along the way.
But ultimately, I think the novel suggests that love can be a powerful force for healing.
A catalyst for growth and transformation.
Exactly. And, you know, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by the sheer scope of this novel.
Yeah, it covers so much ground.
From the intricacies of human relationships to the larger societal issues.
And it does so with such depth and compassion.
It's a novel that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It really does. It's a book that makes you think and feel.
And to question your own assumptions about the world.
And I think that's the mark of a truly great work of literature.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So to our listeners out there, Thank you for joining us on this deep dive,
We hope you enjoyed the conversation.
and that it sparks some of your own reflections.
And if you haven't already, we highly recommend checking out this incredible novel.
It's a journey you won't soon forget.
Happy reading, everyone.